Turns out, divine intervention comes in the form of a rainstorm and your husband's guilty face at a cafe table. There I was, soaking wet in my Burberry trench coat, staring at my husband Pierce with a 23-year-old blonde sitting in his lap like she'd won a carnival prize. The way he choked on his overpriced cappuccino? Chef's kiss. Pure cinematic gold. She jumped off him so fast her Zara platforms nearly became murder weapons. But here's the thing about catching your husband mid-affair at the same cafe where he proposed 12 years ago. The universe doesn't just send you a sign, honey. It hands you a blueprint for total destruction. My name is Lacey Morrison. I'm 34 years old, and that Tuesday in March started like any normal day in Asheville, North Carolina. I had just left my attorney's office, boring contract stuff about expanding my interior design business, when the sky decided to audition for a disaster movie. Rain came down in sheets so thick I could barely see 3 feet ahead. So naturally, I pulled into the Bluebell Café, that overpriced hipster joint downtown where Pierce and I had our first date back when skinny jeans were still cool and we both had hope. The irony wasn't lost on me. The universe has a sick sense of humor, like a comedian who thinks tragedy equals comedy. I pushed through the door, rain dripping from my hair, mascara probably running like a sad country song. And there he was, Pierce Morrison, my supposedly faithful husband of 12 years, corporate marketing manager, amateur golfer, mediocre cook, and apparently full-time cheater. The blonde, because of course she was blonde, had her manicured hands wrapped around his neck, her legs strategically positioned across his lap, and her smile screaming, "I won, you lost, game over." When our eyes met, his face went through more color changes than a mood ring. The coffee that had been heading to his mouth instead went straight to his windpipe. He sputtered, coughed, turned crimson, then ghostly pale, all in about 3 seconds. The girl scrambled off his lap with the grace of a newborn giraffe on ice, nearly taking out the potted fern next to their cozy corner booth. Here's where my story diverges from every Lifetime movie you've ever hate-watched at 2 a.m. with a pint of Ben & Jerry's. I didn't scream, didn't throw anything, didn't burst into tears or make a scene that would have gotten us featured on someone's TikTok. Instead, I smiled. That cold, calculated smile my best friend Thea calls my someone's about to lose everything face. Pulled out my iPhone 14 and took 3 perfect photos from 3 perfect angles. Lighting was decent, faces were clear, body language was unmistakable. Then I raised my voice just enough for the entire cafe to hear. "Pierce, sweetheart, I didn't know you had a meeting today." I turned to the blonde, whose spray tan was starting to show stress cracks. "Oh, hi there. You must be Shelby from the office. Pierce has mentioned you so much lately." The way her face drained of color, like someone had pulled a plug. Because yes, I knew exactly who she was. Shelby Grant, 23, fresh out of UNC with a marketing degree and apparently zero moral compass. Pierce's late nights at the office for the past 2 months suddenly made perfect sense. The new cologne, the gym membership he'd never used before, the way he'd started caring about his hair again. What neither of them knew, and this is where it gets delicious, is that Shelby's best friend Bristol happens to be my client. And 3 weeks ago, while we were picking out curtains for her breakfast nook, Bristol had a moment of Christian guilt and told me everything. Every single thing. The lunch dates, the working late sessions. The weekend Pierce claimed he was at a conference in Charlotte but was actually at some romantic Airbnb in the mountains. I'd known for 3 weeks. And I'd been planning ever since. I walked out of that cafe like I was strutting down a runway, got in my car, drove straight to my office in the River Arts District, locked the door, and spent the next 72 hours orchestrating the most surgical revenge the suburbs of North Carolina had ever witnessed. First call? To Bennett, my second cousin who happens to be Pierce's boss at Sterling Marketing Group. Bennett and I grew up together, spent summers at our grandparents' lake house, shared secrets and scraped knees. He owed me for covering when he crashed his dad's Lexus senior year. I sent him the photos accidentally in a family group chat that included not just him, but Pierce's mother Lorraine, evangelical, judgmental, queen of passive-aggressive comments about my career-focused lifestyle and lack of grandchildren. Watching that family chat explode was more satisfying than any spa day. But the real masterpiece? I did some digging. Turns out little Shelby wasn't just Pierce's side piece. She was engaged. To a guy named Heath. A perfectly nice accountant from Charlotte who had no idea his fiancée was spending her lunch breaks playing lapdog at the Bluebell Café. Their wedding was 6 weeks away. 6 weeks. I printed those cafe photos on glossy cardstock, put them in a cream-colored envelope with a satin ribbon, very bridal, very ironic, and mailed them to Heath's office with a note in elegant script. Thought you should know how your fiancée spends her lunch breaks. Wishing you clarity. A concerned stranger. The fallout was glorious. Within 48 hours, Pierce got called into Bennett's office. HR was waiting. The photos had made their way to company leadership. Something about inappropriate workplace relationships, abuse of authority, hostile work environment. The words terminated effective immediately had never sounded so beautiful. Bennett texted me, "Done. He's out. You okay?" I replied with a champagne emoji. Shelby's world crumbled even faster. Heath didn't just call off the wedding. He posted a cryptic Instagram story. When people show you who they are, believe them. Their mutual friends did the math. By Thursday afternoon, Shelby had deleted all her social media accounts. The Asheville gossip mill, fueled by overpriced lattes and too much free time, turned her into a cautionary tale. And me? I scheduled an appointment with Asheville's most ruthless divorce attorney. Filed papers. Claimed the house. Which, fun fact, I'd inherited from my grandmother, so Pierce had exactly zero legal claim. Asked for 60% of our joint assets as compensation for emotional distress. Got it. Pierce called me exactly 1 week after his termination. 7 days of radio silence, and then suddenly my phone lit up with his contact photo. The one from our anniversary trip to Charleston where he looked happy and I looked like I actually believed in forever. Cute. I let it ring 4 times before answering, just long enough to make him sweat. Lacey. His voice cracked like he'd been crying. Good. We need to talk. Oh, do we? I was reorganizing fabric samples in my studio, completely unbothered, living my best post-betrayal life. Because I thought we talked plenty when I filed for divorce. My attorney seemed very thorough. That's not fair. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. I actually laughed. Out loud. The kind of laugh that makes people nervous at dinner parties. Explain what, Pierce? Explain how Shelby's tongue ended up in your mouth? Or maybe explain the physics of how a 23-year-old ends up in your lap. I'm not a scientist, but I think I understand cause and effect. It was a mistake. It meant nothing. 2 months of mistakes? That's not an affair, honey. That's a hobby. The silence on his end was delicious. I could practically hear his brain scrambling for the right manipulation tactic. Pierce had always been decent at sales pitches. That's what made him good at marketing. But apparently he'd never prepared a PowerPoint presentation for how to win back the wife you cheated on. I lost my job because of you, he finally said. And there it was. The victim card. Right on schedule. No, sweetheart. You lost your job because you couldn't keep your hands off a subordinate in a public cafe. I just made sure the right people had the right information. It's called transparency. Very trendy in corporate culture these days. My mother won't even talk to me. Oh, Lorraine. Pierce's mother had been a thorn in my side since day one. Never thought I was good enough for her precious boy. Too focused on my career. Too independent. Not maternal enough. The woman had spent 12 years dropping hints about grandchildren with all the subtlety of a car alarm. And now? Now she was calling me every other day asking if I needed anything, offering to bring casseroles, suddenly remembering she'd always admired my work ethic. Your mother, I said slowly, savoring every word, is welcome to her opinions. But last I checked, she wasn't the one who found her son with another woman. So her silence toward you feels appropriate. This isn't the Lacey I married. You're right. The Lacey you married would have cried and begged for explanations and probably taken you back after some couples therapy and empty promises. This Lacey knows her worth. Evolution is beautiful, isn't it? He hung up. I went back to my fabric samples. The real comedy show started 2 days later when Pierce showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant Thea, bless her Gen Z heart, tried to stop him, but he pushed past her into my design studio like he still had rights to anything in my life. "We need to talk about the house," he announced, standing in my workspace in a wrinkled button-down and jeans that looked like they'd been worn for 3 days straight. His hair was greasy, dark circles under his eyes. The whole aesthetic screamed, midlife crisis meets rock bottom. I didn't even look up from my laptop. The house that my grandmother left me in her will? The house that has my name, and only my name, on the deed? That house? We've been married 12 years. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, actually. And honestly, I'd recommend it. Thea snorted from her desk in the corner. Pierce's face went red. Half of everything we built together should be mine. Everything we built? I finally closed my laptop and gave him my full attention. Sweetheart, you built a career you just lost. I built a business that's about to close a 6-figure contract with the Highland Hotel Group. We are not the same. I deserve something. You deserve exactly what you're getting, which, according to my attorney's calculations, is 40% of our joint assets, 0 claim on my business, and no claim on inherited property. Oh, and you get to keep all your golf clubs. I'm generous like that. He stared at me like I'd just spoken Mandarin. You've changed. No, Pierce. I've stopped pretending your mediocrity was my responsibility to manage. That one landed. I could see it in his face. The moment he realized I wasn't the same woman who used to iron his shirts and smile through his mother's passive-aggressive comments about my delayed motherhood. Where am I supposed to live? I hear that studio apartment complex near the airport has availability. Very cozy. Great for singles. Lacey. You know what's wild? I stood up, walked around my desk, and looked him directly in the eyes. You had 12 years. 12 years of me cooking your favorite meals, attending your boring work functions, listening to your mediocre opinions about football teams I didn't care about. 12 years of me being loyal while you complained I worked too much. And you threw it all away for someone who probably thinks vintage means anything from 2019. His jaw clenched. She's not. Oh, I don't care what she is or isn't. That's Heath's problem now. Oh, wait. No, it's not. Because she doesn't have Heath anymore either. Funny how that works. You sent him those photos. I sent him the truth. There's a difference. You destroyed her life. No, honey. She destroyed her own life when she decided to play house with someone else's husband. I just provided the documentation. Very important in legal proceedings. Pierce looked around my studio, at the mood boards, the fabric samples, the architectural drawings, the evidence of everything I'd built while he was busy building a relationship with someone barely old enough to rent a car. This is who you really are. Cold, calculating, competent, professional, self-respecting. But sure, let's go with cold. I can live with that. I never loved her. It was just a mistake. Nothing. Meaningless. Yeah, you mentioned that already. Here's the thing about mistakes, Pierce. You don't make the same mistake twice a week for 2 months. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. Multiple decisions. A whole decision-making process. He ran his hands through his greasy hair. I want to fix this. Fix what? Your reputation? Your job? Your relationship with your mother? Because those ships have sailed, buddy. Titanic style. Our marriage. I picked up my phone and started scrolling through emails, dismissing him with body language since words clearly weren't working. Our marriage ended the moment you decided Shelby's company was more valuable than my loyalty. Everything after that is just paperwork. 12 years means nothing to you. I looked up, and this time I let him see exactly how done I was. 12 years means everything to me. Which is why I'm not wasting year 13 on someone who doesn't understand basic concepts like fidelity and respect. You're really going through with the divorce. Pierce, I filed 3 days after catching you. The divorce isn't coming. It's here. You're just late to your own ending. Thea stood up from her desk. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Mrs. Morrison has a client meeting in 10 minutes. Mrs. Morrison. I'd be changing that soon. Back to Lacey Bradford. The name I had before I thought loving someone meant shrinking myself to fit their mediocrity. Pierce walked to the door, paused, turned back one more time. I hope you find someone who makes you happy. Oh, honey. I smiled, genuine this time. I already did. Me. After he left, Thea brought me a cold brew from the coffee shop downstairs. That was brutal. Remind me never to cross you. Note taken. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. Deposition scheduled. Bring any additional evidence of marital misconduct. I pulled up the folder on my laptop labeled Pierce's Greatest Hits. Screenshots of texts I'd recovered from his old phone. Credit card statements showing romantic restaurant charges during his alleged business trips. Hotel bookings. Flower deliveries to addresses that weren't our home. I'd spent 12 years being the good wife. Now I was going to spend the next few months being the excellent ex-wife. The kind who walks away with everything she earned and none of the dead weight. The deposition was scheduled for a Thursday in April, exactly 5 weeks after the Bluebell Café incident. I showed up in a navy Armani suit, hair pulled back in a sleek bun, carrying a leather portfolio that cost more than Pierce's monthly rent. My attorney, Gloria Ramsey, 58, ruthless, winner of approximately 900% of her cases, greeted me with the kind of smile sharks give before feeding time. Ready to bury him? She asked. I brought the shovel. Pierce arrived 10 minutes late with a legal aid attorney who looked fresh out of law school and terrified of Gloria. Poor kid probably pulled the short straw at his firm. Pierce himself looked worse than last time, if that was even possible. Same wrinkled shirt, different day. The apartment near the airport clearly didn't come with an iron. We sat across from each other at the mahogany conference table, and I made sure to meet his eyes with zero emotion. Not anger, not sadness, nothing. Just the blank professional stare I'd perfected during 12 years of tolerating his mother's comments about my career obsession. The deposition started with basic questions. Assets, income, property, all very standard until Gloria slid a manila folder across the table. Mr. Morrison, can you explain these credit card charges from February 14th? Valentine's Day. The Asheville Grand Hotel. Room service for 2. Champagne. Chocolate-covered strawberries. Pierce's face went the color of old oatmeal. I can explain. Please do. Because according to Mrs. Morrison's testimony, you told her you were in Charlotte that weekend for a marketing conference. His attorney whispered something to him. Pierce cleared his throat. I was entertaining a client. Shelby Grant? Your 23-year-old subordinate? We weren't. Gloria pulled out another document. Text messages recovered from your company phone. February 20th. To Miss Grant. Quote, last weekend was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. End quote. That's quite the client relationship. I watched Pierce squirm like a fish on a dock. His attorney looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. Afghanistan, maybe. Or a root canal appointment without anesthesia. Here's where it gets interesting, Gloria continued. And I knew this was the part she'd been saving. The grand finale. Mr. Morrison, were you aware that Miss Grant was simultaneously involved with her fiancé Heath Caldwell during your affair? Pierce blinked. What does that have to do with... Were you also aware that Miss Grant became pregnant in early February? The room went silent. Pierce's face cycled through confusion, shock, and then something close to panic. Even his attorney looked surprised. I kept my expression neutral, but internally I was doing cartwheels. Because here's what Pierce didn't know. Bristol, Shelby's guilt-ridden best friend and my client, had given me 2 crucial pieces of information at 2 different times. 3 weeks before the cafe incident, she'd told me about the affair while we picked out curtains. That conversation gave me time to plan. But 2 weeks ago, Bristol called me again, with a development that changed everything. Shelby was pregnant. Gloria slid another document across the table. Medical records. Prenatal appointment scheduled. Due date calculated. Everything perfectly legal to obtain through discovery since Pierce's affair was directly relevant to our divorce proceedings. Miss Grant scheduled a paternity test for next month, Gloria said calmly, like she was discussing weather patterns. The potential fathers are you and Mr. Caldwell. 50-50 odds, Mr. Morrison. Care to comment? Pierce's attorney called for a recess. We took 15 minutes. I went to the bathroom, reapplied my lipstick, and texted Thea. It's going exactly as planned. When we reconvened, Pierce looked like someone had run him over with a riding lawnmower. Twice. Mrs. Morrison, Gloria said, turning to me. How has this affair and its ongoing complications affected your emotional state? I'd rehearsed this part. Kept my voice steady, professional, just the right amount of hurt without being dramatic. I spent 12 years building a life with someone I trusted completely. I supported his career, managed our home, attended every corporate function, smiled through every criticism from his family about my choices. And he repaid that loyalty by risking not only our marriage, but potentially bringing a child into this mess. A child that may or may not be his. So yes, Gloria, I'd say my emotional state has been affected. Pierce's attorney tried to object. Something about relevance. But Gloria shut him down with precedent citations that made my 3 years of paralegal work before design school look cute. The deposition ended 2 hours later. Pierce left, looking destroyed. I left looking flawless. In the parking garage, Gloria pulled me aside. That was perfect. His attorney knows they have no leverage. The affair, the pregnancy complication, the company termination, it's all documented. Judge Hampton handles your hearing next month, and she has zero tolerance for marital misconduct. You're getting everything you asked for. The house? Yours completely. Inherited property. The assets? 60-40 split in your favor, plus he's paying your legal fees. His retirement account? Gloria smiled. You're entitled to 50% of what was accumulated during the marriage, which, given his recent termination and lack of current employment, he'll feel significantly. I drove back to my office in the River Arts District, parked in my designated spot, the one with my company name painted in elegant script, and sat in my car for 5 minutes just breathing. Not crying, not celebrating. Just existing in the quiet knowledge that everything I'd planned was working. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Is this Lacey Morrison? Speaking. This is Diane Patterson from Highland Hotel Group. We've reviewed your proposal for our flagship boutique property renovation, the Highland Hotel downtown. We'd like to move forward. Can you meet Tuesday to discuss contract terms? I'd submitted that proposal 3 weeks ago. 40-page design concept for their historic downtown property. Art Deco restoration, modern amenities, complete interior overhaul. The kind of project that would put my company on the map beyond Asheville. Highland Hotel Group owned 12 properties across the Southeast, but this particular hotel was their crown jewel. Tuesday works perfectly, I said, keeping my voice professional despite wanting to scream with joy. Excellent. We were impressed by your portfolio, particularly your ability to honor historical elements while creating contemporary luxury. That's exactly the vision we're pursuing for the Highland Hotel. After hanging up, I sat in my car and let myself smile. Really smile. The kind of smile that comes from knowing you didn't just survive something terrible. You're about to thrive because of it. That evening, I met my friend Marin for dinner at a new restaurant downtown. Marin had been my college roommate, stood beside me at my wedding, and had spent the last 5 weeks listening to me process this entire disaster with wine and patience. You look different, she said after we ordered. Different how? Lighter. Like someone lifted a weight off your shoulders. Pierce might be a father. 50-50 odds. With his mistress. Marin nearly choked on her water. You're joking. Depositions don't lie. Oh my God. How are you so calm? Because it's not my problem anymore. I sipped my wine. A very nice Pinot Noir I'd ordered without checking the price. Whether that baby is his or Heath's, I'm not involved. I'm not the wife who has to navigate that nightmare. I'm the ex-wife with a clean slate and a 6-figure hotel contract. You got the Highland deal? Called this afternoon. Marin raised her glass. To dodging bullets and catching opportunities. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in 5 weeks, I felt something that wasn't anger or determination or calculated revenge. I felt free. My phone buzzed again. Pierce's mother, Lorraine. Lacey, dear, I heard about the deposition. I want you to know I'm praying for you. I almost laughed. Lorraine had spent 12 years praying I'd give her grandchildren, and now she was praying for me because her son might be having one with someone else. Thank you, Lorraine. I appreciate that. You've always been too good for him. I see that now. Better late than never, I suppose. That night, alone in the house that was legally and completely mine, I opened my laptop and started sketching design concepts for the Highland Hotel project. Not because I had to, not to distract myself, but because I wanted to. Because my work wasn't something I did to fill time around being Pierce's wife. It was who I was before him, during him, and infinitely better after him. The divorce hearing was 4 weeks away. Pierce's potential paternity situation would resolve itself one way or another. Shelby's life was her own chaos to manage. And me? I was just getting started. The divorce hearing happened on a Tuesday in May, exactly 8 weeks after the Bluebell Café incident. Judge Patricia Hampton presided, a woman in her early 60s with silver hair, reading glasses on a chain, and a reputation for absolutely destroying dishonest spouses in family court. Pierce's bargain bin attorney looked like he'd aged 10 years since the deposition. Gloria laid out our case with the precision of a surgeon and the mercy of a loan shark. Credit card statements showing Pierce's romantic expenditures, text messages recovered through legal discovery, hotel receipts, the company termination letter citing inappropriate workplace conduct, and the crown jewel, medical documentation of Shelby Grant's pregnancy with Pierce, listed as one of 2 potential fathers. Judge Hampton's expression didn't change, but I saw her pen pause on her notepad when Gloria mentioned that last part. Pierce's attorney tried arguing that I was entitled to standard 50-50 asset division. Gloria countered with North Carolina's equitable distribution laws, emphasizing Pierce's marital misconduct, his financial irresponsibility during the affair, and my separate inherited property. She presented documentation showing I'd maintained our household expenses, paid the mortgage on my inherited house, and grown my business while Pierce spent joint funds on his mistress. Your Honor, Gloria concluded, Mrs. Morrison is requesting 60% of marital assets, full ownership of her inherited property, division of Mr. Morrison's retirement account accrued during marriage, and recovery of her legal fees. Given Mr. Morrison's documented infidelity and misuse of marital funds, we believe this distribution is not only fair, but conservative. Judge Hampton reviewed the documents for what felt like an eternity. Then she looked directly at Pierce. Mr. Morrison, did you engage in an extramarital affair with Miss Shelby Grant? Yes, Your Honor, but did you utilize marital funds for this relationship without your wife's knowledge or consent? It wasn't significant amounts. Mr. Morrison, I'm asking yes or no questions. Did you use marital funds? Pierce's face flushed. Yes. Were you terminated from your employment due to this inappropriate relationship with a subordinate? Yes. But the circumstances? Yes or no, Mr. Morrison? Yes. Judge Hampton removed her reading glasses. I've reviewed all submitted evidence. Mrs. Morrison's inherited property remains solely hers. That's non-negotiable under North Carolina law. Regarding marital assets, I'm awarding Mrs. Morrison 65%. Pierce's attorney stood up. Your Honor, we requested 50. I'm aware of what you requested, counsel. I'm awarding 65% based on Mr. Morrison's depletion of marital assets for personal misconduct. Additionally, Mr. Morrison will pay all of Mrs. Morrison's legal fees and court costs. Mrs. Morrison is entitled to 50% of Mr. Morrison's retirement account accrued during the marriage. This court orders immediate legal separation with binding asset division as outlined. Final divorce decree will be issued upon completion of North Carolina's mandatory separation period. We're adjourned. The gavel came down like thunder. The formal separation was enough. The asset division was immediate and binding. The actual divorce paperwork would come in a year, a technicality at this point since everything that mattered was already decided. I'd gotten the house, the assets, the retirement split, and my freedom in every way that counted. Pierce looked like someone had physically struck him. His attorney gathered papers with the frantic energy of someone who knew they'd just lost spectacularly. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked out of that courtroom with Gloria beside me. 65%, I said once we reached the hallway. You said 60. Judge Hampton doesn't appreciate liars, or cheaters, or men who waste the court's time with weak defenses. She added 5% as a penalty. I could kiss you. Send a referral instead. I charge for kisses. I drove straight to my office, where Thea had hung a banner that read, "Congratulations on your freedom," with little champagne bottle decorations. My entire design team, all 4 of them, had brought lunch from the good Italian place downtown. To Lacey, Thea raised her sparkling cider, who proved you can have your house, your business, and your dignity all at the same time. We toasted. We ate ridiculous amounts of carbonara. And I signed the contract for the Highland Hotel project with official company letterhead and zero emotional baggage weighing down my pen. The real satisfaction came 2 weeks later. Bristol called me on a Wednesday afternoon, her voice tight with barely contained drama. "Lacey, you need to hear this." The paternity results came back. I was selecting tile samples for the Highland Hotel's bathroom renovations, but I put down the porcelain immediately. And it's Pierce's. I sat down. Not because I was upset. God, no. But because the cosmic comedy of it all required a moment of appreciation. "You're absolutely sure?" Shelby posted about it in our private friend group chat. She's devastated. Heath won't speak to her. Her family is furious. And Pierce? Pierce apparently had a complete breakdown when he got the results. Define breakdown. Crying in a Walmart parking lot level breakdown. Her words, not mine. I tried to feel sympathy. Really tried. Came up empty. So Pierce is going to be a father at 36 with a woman half his age, no job, limited assets after our divorce settlement, and a reputation in Asheville that's basically toxic waste. That's the summary, yes. And Shelby? Living with her parents in Charlotte. Working retail at a mall. The Instagram influencer dreams are dead. She deleted all her posts and made her account private, down to like 47 followers from thousands. She's keeping the baby, but she's doing it alone. Pierce hasn't committed to anything except child support, which his attorney apparently told him is mandatory. After we hung up, I sat in my office and processed this information with the emotional detachment of someone reviewing a spreadsheet. Pierce would be paying child support for the next 18 years. His retirement account was already split with me taking half of what we'd accumulated during our marriage. He had no job, limited prospects, and a personal scandal that made him basically unemployable in Asheville's tight-knit professional community. My cousin Bennett had told me last week that Pierce's termination became something of a cautionary tale at Sterling Marketing Group, used in updated HR training about workplace relationships. Even Pierce's professional legacy was now a warning label. Shelby had lost her fiancé, her social circle, her engagement, her wedding, her carefully curated social media presence, and her entire planned future. She'd be a single mother working retail while living with her parents. And me? I had a thriving business, a beautiful home that was entirely mine, 65% of our marital assets, and a 6-figure hotel renovation contract that would establish my company as the premier design firm in Western North Carolina. Karma wasn't just real. Karma had impeccable timing and a twisted sense of poetic justice. The Highland Hotel project kicked off in June. I spent 3 months transforming a dated 1920s building into a boutique luxury property that got featured in Southern Living magazine before we even finished construction. The publicity brought in 7 new high-end clients. I hired 2 more designers, moved my office to a larger space in the River Arts District with floor-to-ceiling windows and exposed brick that made clients trust my aesthetic judgment before I said a single word. Pierce's mother, Lorraine, called me in July, not to defend her son, but to ask if I needed anything. We had coffee downtown, and she apologized for 12 years of criticism and judgment. "You were always enough, Lacey," she said, stirring her latte with hands that trembled slightly. "I see that now. I was wrong about what success looks like. Thank you, Lorraine. My son is a fool. Your son is the father of your grandchild. That's something." She smiled sadly. Not the way I imagined becoming a grandmother. No, I thought. It definitely wasn't. By August, Pierce had found work as a sales associate at a sporting goods store. Not terrible, but a significant downgrade from marketing manager. He paid child support on time, probably because his attorney explained what happens when you don't. But according to Bristol's updates, he rarely saw Shelby or involved himself in pregnancy planning. Just sent money and kept his distance. Shelby gave birth in early November. A girl. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Bristol sent me a photo. Not to be cruel, but because we'd become actual friends through this entire disaster. The baby was beautiful, objectively speaking. Shelby looked exhausted. And somewhere in Asheville, Pierce was probably having an existential crisis about his life choices. I sent a gift basket to Shelby's parents' address in Charlotte. Nothing personal, just practical baby items, diapers, wipes, the kind of stuff new mothers need. Included a card that said simply, "Congratulations on your daughter. Wishing you strength for the journey ahead." Bristol told me later that Shelby cried when she opened it. Some people thought I was being petty. Others thought I was being gracious. I was being neither. I was being complete, because that chapter of my life was finished, and I don't leave things unfinished. The Highland Hotel opened to the public later in November with a ribbon-cutting ceremony that made the local news. I wore a crimson dress, gave a short speech about honoring history while embracing innovation, and watched as the mayor cut the ribbon while photographers captured the moment. That evening, alone in my house, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the porch overlooking my grandmother's rose garden. The same roses she'd tended for 40 years before leaving me this house, this foundation, this reminder that women in my family don't crumble. We cultivate. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on the hotel. It looks beautiful. I'm sorry for everything. Pierce." I read it twice, deleted it, blocked the number. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges burn for a reason. And some women realize they never needed the bridge in the first place. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But nobody mentions that freedom tastes better than any revenge ever could. It's been a year since that rainy Tuesday in March when I walked into the Bluebell Café and found my husband auditioning for a reality show I never signed up for. 12 months of reconstruction, not just of the Highland Hotel, but of myself. Lacey Bradford. That's my name now. Legally, officially, permanently. I dropped Morrison faster than Pierce dropped his wedding vows. And honestly, it feels like shedding a coat that never quite fit right. My grandmother would have approved. She always said women in our family were born with backbones made of Carolina steel. My business tripled in revenue this year. The Highland Hotel became the most photographed property in Asheville, which led to contracts with 3 more historic properties across North Carolina. I hired 6 additional designers, moved into an office space that actually requires a receptionist, and got featured in Architectural Digest's Rising Stars Under 40 issue. The article called my work a masterclass in honoring the past while refusing to live in it. The irony wasn't lost on me. Pierce, last I heard through Asheville's incredibly efficient gossip network, is still selling athletic equipment and living in that studio apartment near the airport. He sees his daughter, her name is Iris, which I learned from Bristol, twice a month for supervised visits. Apparently, fatherhood at 37 with limited resources and even more limited emotional capacity isn't the adventure he thought it would be. Shelby's parents supervise because Shelby doesn't trust him alone with their child. Can't imagine why. Shelby herself is working 2 jobs now. Retail during the day, waitressing on weekends, while her parents help with childcare. Her Instagram account, once a showcase for her influencer aspirations with thousands of followers, is now a ghost town. She kept the account but deleted every post from before, leaving only recent photos of baby Iris for the 47 people who still follow her. Sometimes the best restart button is complete erasure. I don't hate her anymore. Honestly, I barely think about her. She's a cautionary tale that occasionally crosses my mind when I'm feeling philosophical about choices and consequences. She wanted what I had, the marriage, the house, the stability, without understanding that none of those things meant anything if they weren't built on truth. She got Pierce. Lucky her. Lorraine and I have coffee once a month now. We don't talk about Pierce unless she brings him up, which is rare. Mostly we discuss her garden club, my latest projects, and the satisfying reality that we're both better off without him as the center of our conversations. She met baby Iris twice and sent me a photo. Beautiful child. Unfortunate circumstances. Lorraine's learning that being a grandmother isn't always the blessing you imagined when it comes with side dishes of regret and disappointment. I raised him better than this, she told me last month over lattes. You raised him fine, Lorraine. He chose poorly. Those are different things. She squeezed my hand. You deserved better. I got better, just took the long way around. Thea, my assistant who witnessed the entire saga from the front row, got promoted to junior designer. She's brilliant with color theory and has absolutely zero tolerance for nonsense, which makes her perfect for client management. She also instituted a company policy: no designing for cheating spouses. We don't need that energy in our portfolio. Marin, my college roommate who survived countless wine nights during the divorce process, stood beside me at the Highland Hotel opening and whispered, "You know what's beautiful about all this? You didn't just survive. You flourished." She was right. Survival was March through May. Flourishing was everything after. I date occasionally now. Nothing serious. A few dinners with interesting men who have stable careers and functional emotional intelligence. It's refreshing to have conversations with people who view honesty as a baseline requirement rather than an impressive achievement. I'm not rushing toward anything. For the first time in my adult life, I'm exactly where I want to be without needing someone else to validate that position. The house. My grandmother's house. My house. Got a full renovation last summer. New kitchen, updated bathrooms, fresh paint throughout. I erased every trace of Pierce's existence from these walls. His golf trophies, his college memorabilia, his collection of boring business books, all donated or trashed. The guest room he used as an office became my design library. His closet became storage for fabric samples. Even the furniture we'd picked out together got replaced with pieces I actually liked. I host dinner parties now. Real ones, with interesting people who tell good stories and don't make me feel guilty for working past 5 p.m. My friends bring wine and laughter and absolutely zero judgment about my choices. It's the kind of life I'd forgotten was possible when I was busy managing someone else's mediocrity. Sometimes I drive past the Bluebell Café. It's still there, still serving overpriced coffee to tourists and locals who don't know it's the site of my personal liberation. I don't go in anymore. Don't need to. That chapter is closed, and I don't reread boring books. Here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It's a gift if you're brave enough to unwrap it. Pierce didn't just show me who he was. He showed me who I'd been tolerating myself as. The woman who dimmed her ambition to make someone else comfortable. The woman who apologized for success. The woman who thought love meant shrinking. That woman doesn't exist anymore. In her place is someone who knows her worth, runs a thriving business, owns a beautiful home, and sleeps peacefully every single night. Someone who learned that the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference with excellent legal representation. They say living well is the best revenge. I say living authentically is better than revenge ever needed to be. Pierce got Shelby, a baby, child support payments, and a studio apartment. Shelby got Pierce, single motherhood, and the realization that winning someone else's husband isn't actually winning. I got freedom, success, peace, and a life I built on my own terms. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. Sometimes you just need to step back and let people enjoy the consequences they created. And sometimes the best ending isn't closure. It's just moving forward and never looking back.